About 10 months ago, I uploaded a video of the American Mustang P-51, colloquially referred to as the Cannon Stang by many. It's an early Mustang with four 20mm hispanos and an Allison engine with a single-stage supercharger. Performance starts to pecker off around 4,500 meters, and the plane is near useless above 6,000 meters. Which is actually fine, because at a battle rating of 3.7, if you just have a little patience, almost all of your battles will take place well below 4,500 meters. Now, that first video was made while the game was in patch 1.5.5, and the flight model was atrocious. You couldn't get the plane to roll, loop, or really much of anything. It would randomly flip over or randomly not flip over when you wanted it to. You kinda just had to go as fast as you could and hang on, hope that it would point vaguely towards something, and that something to be stupid enough to stay in front of you long enough for your 20s to blow them apart. However, somewhere around patch 1.59, maybe earlier, maybe later, flight models were changed drastically for the Cannon Stang. After flying out the premium, grindable racing P-51 and the A-36, which I'd also made videos of after 1.59, I thought, hey, maybe the Cannon Stang handles similarly now. And guess what? It did. Now, I had owned the British P-51 Mark 1A for quite a while, from years ago when I used to play arcade. The times I'd flown it in RB when I first switched over had caused me to leave it alone in the hangar for a long time with a dismal KDR. So when I noted the change, I decided to start flying out the Brit Stang again, and really learn its quirks and abilities. And I'll tell ya, I find it a damned fine plane to play. To be fair, the 20mm hispanos are far less effective after the damage model change of 1.59, but I can live with that if I have a plane that actually turns the direction I tell it to. So I'd been wanting to make a video for a long time covering the Cannon Stang, and if you watch the previous video, you will really see the differences between the way it handled in 1.5.5 and how it handles now. I'm flying out the Brit Stang, but as far as I can tell, it's identical to the non-premium American P-51 Cannon Stang. So let's get to the fight. You'd probably notice I'd climbed around 5.5 kilometers, not because I didn't gauge anything up there, but to use this plane's really good dive speed, energy retention, and stability at lower altitudes. I had hit over 700 kilometers per hour with very little drama. I dove on a 109F and was able to loop around at 600 kilometers per hour. We made a vertical head-on at each other at close range and both missed. I extend out from the encounter with another 109 slightly above me to my rear. I open up some distance and turn around to aid the XP-55. The 109 had broken off from the XP-55 and started going in low. I nose down to follow and catch him very quickly. I squeeze off a few shots as I catch him, and the Stealth 20s do their job and take him down. I make some adjustments to avoid another 109 coming in after me, bank hard left and continue out, maintaining good speed in a climb thanks to this plane's energy retention and an engine that is really quite good at these very low altitudes. There aren't a lot of planes at 3.7 BR that are as fast as this one in level flight at low altitude. I look around me for potential threats or targets, turn back and to avoid being targeted by a fast-moving 190, and take a second to figure out what's around me and how I should proceed from here. The Mustang can handle as well or better than many of the 190s and 109s, especially above 400 kilometers per hour, but there's too much going on to attempt a turn fight here. As you can see, the Mustang is holding energy fairly well and maneuverable enough to keep me out of harm's way in this kind of encounter. I successfully avoid the 109 and hit the deck to try to string out two planes that are likely to follow me and see if they take the bait, which they do. I'm at treetop level, making slight movements to avoid their fire, which is easy to follow with their tracers. As you can see, I'm maintaining over 530 kilometers per hour as I leave them behind, giving that XP-55 the back ends of the Germans to fire at. I'm safely outside of their guns now, so I'm picking up speed as much as I can, waiting for them to break off so I can turn to re-engage. When the Cannon Stang can stretch its legs, it can really cruise along, and it's at these speeds that it really handles best. So in many cases, if you can avoid being shot, you can often perform hit and runs in the near horizontal if you are careful. I loop hard as the Germans break off to come back in on top of them, see that the XP-55 is taking down a 190, while another 190 dives on him from above. I'm closer to the new 190 and my teammate, so I move in to help him. I'm a little slower than I like and below them, but the 190 isn't attempting to turn fight the XP-55, so we both start following him. The XP-55 gets a hit on the 190 and we continue the chase. As we get a little higher in altitude, the lower energy state and lower altitude I started this encounter in begins to let that 190 pull away from me, but not at such a tremendous rate that I'm gonna disengage. I'm checking behind me now and then to see what the 190 down low is doing, or if anything else of interest is back there. I continue weaping with mech on props set to 100%, radiator 100%, and mixture set to about 70. Occasionally temps will nudge into the light yellow, but no real overheating here. The 190 levels out and begins a slight left turn, which allows me to start closing the distance again, and I think this guy doesn't have much of a chance against the Canon Stang and an XP55 simultaneously, as long as neither of us screw up too bad. Now at 1400 meters, my plane is again hitting over 430 kilometers per hour, which is really quite good, and as you can see, it's quite stable. None of the weird flopping around that would happen so often quite often actually, previous to patch 157 or 159. The 190 is headed towards this landing strip, and I want to get him taken down before we are too close to too many AAA. AAA on the main landing strips of this map are really brutal. I also take note of the BV-238 Death Star headed to the strip, and a 109 sitting on the smaller, less protected strip. We start following the 190 down and are bringing him in fairly quickly, but that AAA is getting closer and closer. We take a few Hail Mary shots, but with my convergence set to 300, there's not much chance of me hitting him. The XP and I are being careful not to run into each other, and we're getting closer and closer to the 190, and I think we can make it before we are too close to its AAA. In this shallow dive, I hit 600 kilometers per hour, and the plane is still very manageable and very stable. I nose down a little bit to pick up more speed and hit almost 670 kilometers per hour, and the 190 isn't going to make it to the base in time. Both the XP and I start opening up at about 450 meters, and I want to make sure this guy cannot limp to that nearby base and get repaired. Finally, enough of the 190 falls off, and I'm sure he won't be able to repair. I turn hard and head towards where I saw the landed 109. I want to eliminate him before he gets in a position to threaten us with any kind of altitude advantage. When I turn back, I see he's still on the runway. I'm not going to give him the opportunity to put us in danger. It looks like he crash landed, and as I head towards him, he reappears repaired on the other side. He jumps from the plane and disappears again. He's jumping in and out of the plane to try to keep me from hitting him on the airfield. This is a common tactic used by many, and I can't say I blame him for doing it. It's not something I do personally, but it's an easily abused game mechanic. Anyway, I aim for a AAA installation, waiting for him to pop back in. I take out that AAA, then loop up over hard to come back down on top of the 109 as he spawns back in again. This is a pretty tight loop, especially compared to how it used to handle. I come down right on top of him, open up, and destroy his plane. I'm using full elevators as well as combat flaps, and I pull up nice and tight at the end of the dive. Combat flaps in this plane are quite sturdy and don't rip off till very high speed, somewhere north of 450 kilometers per hour sometimes. I turn to get away from the AAA and begin to head back to base. Of course, I am hit by AAA and take some damage to my right wing. Real quick, let me say that I'm running this plane again with a convergence set to 300 meters. I used to run quad hispanos at 600 meters, but after the damage model change in 159, I found I had to put a lot more bullets closer up into something before it would go down. So now I run most planes at 300 to 400 meters convergence. So I've taken off again, and the last enemy is a BV-238. It appears it's fending off the AI attackers that pop up on this map after a certain amount of time. The safest place to be around a BV is directly in front of it, so I'm making my way to intercept it in a manner that he has the fewest guns aimed at me. It's obviously damaged from its encounter with the AI, and it is listing a bit. The Canon Stang's climb rate, while not amazing, is really pretty okay up to 3,000 meters, so it looks like I'm going to be able to make a decent pass on it. I start firing at about 700 meters. With as large as the BV is, the spread of my 300mm convergence 20s should make a decent amount of hits. I keep firing, see a number of sparks, but also a fair number of hits, and I'm aiming for the wing root, hoping to take off its wing or wingtip. I do cause damage to its right wing, but apparently not enough. I do what I can to avoid spending any real time behind it, pick up speed and make another pass and go for it. A fire catches and then somehow he dies. So in short, yeah, I really like this plane, and if you don't try to do things it's not good at, you can do really well in it. I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great day.